Welkom terug, History with Hilbert hier. En vandaag gaan we een beetje Nederlands leren. Welcome back everyone, and today, as you can guess by the title and what's on the screen, I'm going to teach you some basic Dutch. Now, I did have a little request to teach some, and I thought, well, why not, because some people might want to learn a little bit of Dutch. So in this one, it's going to be very basic. I am going to get through quite a lot in hopefully not too long a time. So if you need to, just slow it down, just pause, listen to how I'm pronouncing the words. My pronunciation is pretty much, on point. It shouldn't be wrong. So yeah, enjoy the video. So first of all, let's learn some very basic greetings. So this greeting is hoi. Hoi essentially means the same as hi, and it's a very common greeting. If you see someone in the street, just someone you know or don't know, you could always say hoi. Yeah, that's pretty normal. It's kind of like hi in English. You might say that to someone in the street. It's not particularly formal. It's not particularly informal. It's just a greeting. Now a little bit more formal, but again not explicitly formal or informal, is hallo, which means hello. And it's kind of pronounced very similarly to how in English you might say hollow. So if you have a hole in a tree, then the tree is hollow. Well, you say hello to the tree. Now, another one is dag, which means bye. Now, yes, this one does have a difficult sound in it, which is the g. It's pronounced at the back of the throat. I don't know how. I'm going to recommend you try and pronounce this if you don't know how to do it. I guess just work on it. And dag actually means day as well, so it's probably a shortening of goeiedag, which means good day, which can mean, if someone's very angry and annoyed with someone in an 18th century drama, and they might say, good day, sir, and then storm out of the room. It's something like that. But then this obviously doesn't have any negative connotations. It's just like in English where you'd say bye. In Dutch, you'd say dag, and you'd leave. Now, another one which is a little bit more informal is doei, which is kind of like bye-bye in English, I guess, if you know the person a little bit better. Again, it's not explicitly formal or informal. You might say this to the fishmonger when you're leaving with your herring. I really want some herring, actually. But you might say doei when you're leaving. It's just another thing. In Brabant, which is in the south, which is an interesting part of the Netherlands, they say houdoe, which is a different form, but that's specific to that region. But yeah, you can say doei, which is, another way of saying bye. So, if you want to ask someone how's it going or how are you, then you can say hoe gaat het? Hoe gaat het? Now, my English friends always find it incredibly hilarious when I have my Dutch keyboard on my phone and I'm texting them and I'm asking them how things are going, and then because how is very like the Dutch hoe, it goes to ho, and then my English friends think I'm trying to say something else, whereas in Dutch, the English word how is hoe. So hoe gaat het is saying how goes it, very literally. You don't need to speak Dutch to be able to work that out with a little bit of imagination. So, to say I'm called Hilbert, we have a construction in Dutch which is heet. So, ik heet Hilbert. Now, hate is pronounced just like the English word hate, although it has a different meaning. Now, in German, you've got something similar with ich heiße, which is, again, this construction that doesn't exist in English. The closest is I'm called Hilbert. Now, another way of saying exactly the same thing, but slightly differently, is mijn naam is Hilbert, which I'm sure you can all guess means my name is Hilbert. And this might be, well, to be honest, neither are particularly formal or informal at this stage. So here, this one can be slightly more formal or informal. Hoe heet jij? So again, who, how, heet, called. How called you? You can. It's very basic, really. Now, a point about the word jij. Jij is the informal. And in English, you don't really have formal and informal you forms. If you have studied French or Latin or German or most languages apart from English, they do have this. So in French, tu is the informal. In Spanish, it's tu. I don't know what the Latin is. And then you also have a polite version. But say you're out and about, it's someone your own age, you're not being particularly formal, then you could say hoe heet jij, which I take that as being the slightly more informal version. And that again is what are you called. Now a more formal version is wat is uw naam? And u is the other form. Now U with a W, normally it's spelt with a U, but when there's a W behind it, it's possessive, and it's their name, so that's why you put that. Now, hoe heet u which is the same construction as previously, but then in a more polite form, wouldn't have the W because it's not in possessive, if that makes sense. And this means what is your name, and again it's more formal. So the next one, ik kom uit Nederland. I come from the Netherlands. I didn't write that because then it wouldn't fit on, so I just put I'm from the Netherlands. Again, ik, easy to work out. Kom, it doesn't take much imagination to change the I to an O and to switch them around and you get out. So again, English and Dutch, it's especially when written down, it's not difficult. I come from the Netherlands. Now, ik woon in Engeland means I live in England. Pretty interesting actually. If Engeland is quite a funny one because eng in Dutch, E-N-G, means scary. So Engeland, the construction of Dutch, when something, oh god, linguistic terminology, when something is something, you put an E on the end. So de muziek is hard, the music is loud, de harde muziek, the loud music, if that makes sense. Well, enge means scary, so Engeland means scary land, but it's also what we call England, so there you go. Waar woont u? Is that with a T or a D? This is an infinite problem for Dutch speakers, or just for people who can't spell very well like me. If there's a T or a D on the end, or if there's a DT on the end, because that happens as well. But this is correct in this person. So waar woont u? Waar, it's not particularly different to the English where lives you. I mean, it even looks like text speak, to be honest, with the formal you form. So where do you live? Again, this is slightly more formal. And the construction, if it wasn't, it would be waar woon jij. Now, ik ben 42 jaar oud. I am 42 years old. I'm not. This is just the example I'm putting on. Now, that leads me to... Oh, wait, hold on. That leads me to hoe oud ben jij? Again, this is the more informal version of the thing. And how old are you? Hoe oud ben jij? So now, let's look at some numbers, because you want to say how old you are, which is ik ben, number... out, or ik ben number, and you can say it any way, to be honest. So this number 1 is 1. Again, very similar. 1 actually, when this is written down, it can be pronounced and have a meaning in a couple of different ways. So it can be 1 as in the number, although sometimes, although apparently not often, because I mentioned this in a different video, and a lot of younger Dutch people said this is absolutely, we never do this, I've never seen this. It is a thing. It's just you need to read more, and you need to read more older books. Now, I've read a few older Dutch books, and by older I mean sort of pre-2000, to be honest, where they do put accents on to denote 1. So it's kind of like in English, although it's different again, that in English you have a, and you can have a horse, which at the same time of being a horse, it's also one horse, if that makes sense. So in Dutch you have een paard, which means a horse, but een paard means one horse. But then it can be spelt the same, it can be spelt with accents. So een can mean one, and it can also mean a, but then it's pronounced een instead of een, but it's written in the same way unless they put accents on. But apparently modern Dutch don't really put accents on anymore. I thought they did. Apparently that's an older thing. Or it might just be the millennials who are commenting on my videos who aren't correct. But yeah, that's a little bit about één. So the next word, twee, again, 2, that's pretty self-explanatory. Double E in Dutch makes an A sound, kind of like in hey. Drie, again, now 3 and 3 is a good example here, because a lot of the time in English, when you have a word with TH, it goes to D in Dutch. So the god of thunder in English is Thor. Or Thunor is the Old English. The Dutch word for it is Donar. Let me try and think of another example. The English word for thought is thought with a TH. The Dutch word for thought is gedachte. But he thinks is hij denkt. So again, you can see the D to TH. Now, vier, think of, it's exactly the same as in German, pronounced slightly differently. Beck's vier is the beer for 5. Now again, the IJ in Dutch is a separate ligature, which is pronounced A, which actually also means egg, but but egg is spelt with a short A, which is an EI. Pretty much the same pronunciation, but one's long and one's short. It's kind of complicated, but a lot of people see the IJ in Dutch and they're like, holy moly, what is this sort of Ukrainian Creole that I'm looking at? And I'm like, relax, it's not like izh, it's not fizh, it's definitely, it's not Polish, but it is pronounced as an A. But yeah, people often get scared when they see that. Then 6 is zes. Now this one is the one that's most different, and that's because English 6 is taken from the Norman French. Like six, it's pronounced exactly the same, although at least English people have learned to pronounce this word properly. Although you can kind of see a hybrid in the German, which is a bit of a hybrid between English and Dutch in this case, because the German for 6 is sechs. Now, zeven, 7, this is again, S and Z in Dutch. The English word for C is with an S. The Dutch word for C is with a Z. The English word for sand is with an S. The Dutch word for sand is with a Z. It's zond. Loads of these again. 8 and 8. Now, a lot of the time in Dutch, it retains the ch. In English, it's kind of weird when you have GH, like the one I was giving earlier. Thought, dacht in Dutch. In English, it's spelt with a GH, but you don't pronounce the GH at all. That's just gone silent. In Dutch, you do, and that's where you have the ch, the sort of the guttural ch. And in English, that's completely gone, apart from if you talk to a Scouser. But it not when it's written down. It still remains when it's written down, although it's not pronounced. Now this one, 9, 9, 10, 10, and then you get to elf, which yeah, okay, elf, yeah. 11, 12, which is 12, 13, which is 13, again the same sort of thing, 14, which is 14, and then you just get, it's kind of the same thing in English, where you put the sort of the number before and then 10 behind it. So remember, 5 was 5, so it's 15, 6 was 6, so it's 16, 7 was 7, so it's 17, 8 was 8, so it's 18, and 9 was 9, so it's 19. It's pretty much the same as in English from that point. And then we get to 20, which is 20. And then this is where it's different to English. Now in English you can see that it's 21. You put the the 10 bit you put before, and then the smaller number you put afterwards. In Dutch, this is the other way around. In Dutch, you don't say 21, you say 1 and 20. N means, the EN by the way, in Dutch means and. So it's één, remember the number 1, 1 en 20. Or if you're saying it properly, 21. And now you do this for exactly the same. Now don't be alarmed by the 2 dots above. That's simply to signify that the sound is broken up and not a continuation. Because otherwise it'd be 22. But that's not how it's pronounced. It's 22. So you see the A. That's to signify this. Now you might know that Belgium in Dutch or Flemish is spelled België, which is B-E-L-G-I. And then E with what we call a trema, which are the 2 dots. And this is again because it's not België, which is how it would otherwise be pronounced. There's that little dip in it. The linguistic term for that is an umlaut, I think, which isn't the same as the 2 dots, but I think that's the proper linguistic term. And it's because it's not België, it's België. And it's not 22, it's 22. So yeah, then you put the 2 and 20, then you've got 23, same thing with the trema there, which is 3 and 20, then 24, which is 24. Oh, and I forgot to put all the others on. But yeah, and then when you get up to a big number, like for example 100, which it's not a million miles away from the English either, that's 100. And then you get to, again, the D, TH, it's really quite simple. And actually a lot of what I've been teaching you here, if you take 1000 and 1000, if you take the word 1000 and you think, right, D in Dutch, that's a TH in English, so you change it to 1000. And then you think, oh, Z, that's often an S, then you get to 1000. You see, it's really quite easy to do this. So yeah, 1000 is 1000, Then million, miljoen, it's kind of pronounced the same actually as well. Again, the J in Dutch and in most Scandinavian Germanic languages, the J isn't pronounced like a je. The je thing is a very French thing, like in the French word jardin or je m'appelle Claude or something ridiculous like that. In the Germanic languages, the J is pretty much always pronounced as a Y. So if you remember in the word yay, again, it's not jij, it's yay. And English lost this because of the Normans, so good job, Harold. You know, if you just held them back at 1066, none of this would have happened. We would have been able to understand each other without too many problems. Like Danish and Swedish and Norwegian, you know, Icelandic kids, right? They learn one, and then they can communicate with everyone else. That is if they don't take Danish. But anyway, miljoen, million. Now this one is slightly different to the English one. In Dutch and Frisian, and I think in Norwegian, maybe German as well, I'm not sure entirely. But the word for billion isn't biljoen, not like million, it's miljard. And that's sort of one difference there, I guess. Alright everyone, so that's pretty much it. This has been sort of a very informal languagey teachy thing. Someone requested it. I might make a few more of these. I might make one for more advanced Dutch or just more Dutch stuff, Dutch phrases. I might make one for West Frisian as well once I crack that. And one for Spanish. I could even do one for English and make a video in Dutch, potentially. But then I guess you wouldn't be watching this if you wanted that. But anyway, yeah, so actually one thing that I haven't quite covered, where is Dutch spoken? Well, Dutch is spoken first and foremost in the Netherlands.